What is illness? This really, really blew my mind when I had just the suggestion of this. This really cured a lot of the illnesses that I suffer from or suffered from. The suggestion is all illnesses, all diseases, all addictions, all mental illnesses are curable. We live in a reality where we believe our illnesses are not curable. We have kind of recognized that psychologists and doctors are creating this medical world in which they profit from. We recognize that a lot of them are wrong. Anytime I went to a doctor, I got sicker. um, my path in life, what had my focus, stemmed from doctors telling my parents that the way to get rid of a medical problem was to beat the shit out of me. As if beating the shit out of me would get rid of a medical problem. That had me leading my life purpose, trying to figure out what is true and what isn't true. And I did follow a lot of advice from trained professionals, and following all advice from trained professionals, be it a doctor or a counselor, a psychologist, or a politician, or an economics major, or anybody that has an education that's saying this is how it is, I ended up getting sick. And as soon as I stopped following any advice, and the suggestion was just made ironically by a doctor who, has made the suggestion that all illnesses are curable, you can see his own insanity. He created this concept of holodynamics. He was poisoned with high grade uranium, used this advice to cure this poisoning and the effects it had on his body. He's gone out into the world to prove his concept works. He went into mental institutions, and when he reached like an 89% cure rate, they fired him because they ran out of funding. So his concepts will never be in the medical books as this is pure science, it's fact, it works, because the medical community can't profit off of it. Frankly, this guy isn't profiting off of his own work. He's contradicting himself, because one example is while he cured one medical problem, he's now developed a heart condition that he can't cure. And all illnesses are behavior patterns and beliefs. And it seems like the medical community observes human behavior, and when it's a natural human behavior, they put a label on it that it's wrong. That seems to be what a lot of mental illness is. One example I've seen in this is when I lost my mind, when I started to really see what was going on. There was this single mother. You could tell by the words she used, you could tell by the focus that she has, that she was a very, very good mother. But she was up against a very abusive father of her children, who also had a mayor as a father, who also was manipulating the court systems and the police systems with his power and corruption. And they bombarded this girl. This father didn't want to pay his child support, was not paying any attention to his children, was not visiting, was not being a father in any sense of the word. But because he didn't want to pay his child support, at Christmas, she wanted her children to spend time, and he wanted to spend time with them at this particular Christmas. But he decided not to return these children. decided that these children couldn't even talk to her on the phone. um, this father was trying to completely eliminate her from her children's lives. And the medical community has put this label on her that she's bipolar and suffering from a lot of mental illnesses. And, um, she was, the madness that she was going into was believing the medical community and believing the behaviors that are associated with this medical condition. So she was fulfilling the prophecies of what these doctors were labeling her with. And I kind of sitting back going, that's a human, that's a normal way to react. I mean, she went really, really angry, really frustrated, didn't trust the world, because they were stealing her children. And it's like, take a children from a bear and a bear goes mad. A bear would get frustrated. She was acting perfectly normal for what was being done to her. And yet they're going to say she's got the mental illness, when in fact it was the police, it was the politicians, it was the deadbeat that didn't want to be a good father, that were all mentally ill. And instead of diagnosing them as having the problem, they diagnosed her as being the one with the problem. So, if you're suffering from any type of illness and you've gone to a doctor and they put a label on it and they put a behavior attached to it, that this is the way you're going to behave, chances are you're going to fall into that prophecy and be the mental illness they're trying to convince you that you have. Now, every illness, if it is in fact caused from a behavior or a belief, look at this guy that even created this concept that's proving that it's successful. He was poisoned with high-grade uranium, cured himself of that, but developed a heart problem. Could it be that that heart problem means that he cannot forgive and have understanding for the people that tried to poison him? He does not know, even though he talks about it, and unconditional love, any of his books. While he's saying this is how we should be, he is not mentioning it himself of how he is living his own life with forgiveness and understanding, which is creating his heart problem. Autism. You can see this with any of these autistic children. Who are their parents? What are the behavior patterns of their parents? Most of these parents have obsessive disorders. They obsess over and over and over again on a belief that they think that they can't change, or they mate with another partner that can't send and receive information, that they believe their beliefs are right and can't receive any new information, and then they merge together and have a child and think that this child isn't going to have a heightened experience of not communicating. It is an illness of lack of communication. They cannot receive information, mostly because you're not listening to them. If you sense what's going on with them, they will open up. They can be cured. Autism is definitely a sign of obsessive disorders. They obsess on one thing, which means they can be geniuses and tap into an information field of one focused subject and be a genius in that subject, because they're highly functioning within that obsessive disorder. So all illnesses can be cured. There's the suggestion. Don't follow the medical community, because they will put a label on that you will follow in that same behavior patterns. But start listening to your illness and asking it what it wants. Try to learn how to communicate with your illness, because it's guiding you down the path that you're supposed to live. Your illnesses is a sign that something's wrong with what you believe to be true. Get back on track and you'll cure the diseases that you have. Just a thought. It works for me. Peace out.